This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Less than 150 days away until college football is back on the schedule. Never too early for us to look at win totals across the SEC. Where are the overs, where are the unders? We'll tell you now. Well, how about it? Another week of action here on the Sports Source Digital Network, and they haven't let me go just yet, which means we're making a profit here on the channel. Tyler Ivens, very excited to be back with you again this week. As I do for you, I would like for you to do for me a couple of things. Subscribe, like, and comment here on the channel. And look, you probably found me on the right side of your window with all the additional channels, whether it's been Wild, whether it's Give Him Six, all the different free content that we have here on the Sports Source Digital Network. We just continue to add hours and hours once you make it home. And you're probably saying, Tyler, what do you got now that college basketball is over? Well, I'm taking a look, depending on when things open up on Labor Day. Some of you guys are Thursdays. Some of you guys are Fridays, Mondays. We're in that 147, 150, about 20 weeks in that kind of calendar window before college football kicks off for the 2025 season. And we look across the map of the 16 teams in the SEC. I want to talk to you today about futures bets. Those prop bets, we'll get into those the closer we get to August and we get into September. But future bets, that's where a lot of good money can be made. You make future bets on who's going to win the Super Bowl before the kickoff of the NFL season. You make those future bets of who's going to make the college football playoff. I met a lot of you guys last year who said, hey, I was behind you on that 10-2 Tennessee appearance in the college football playoff, and you made significant amounts of money. If you start hunting around different sports books, and I'm not going to shout out which ones, you know the popular ones because they run commercials, you see them on your social medias, they're offering some of the juiciest amounts of money that you can actually profit off of the earlier you get to these numbers. So let's say you're watching this video and I don't know, it's April. Maybe you're watching this video and we're still in May. We haven't really kicked off summer yet. We can start talking about some of these key win totals across the Southeastern Conference. Not to mention my favorite one, it's coming up. It's going to be the lock. Not just of the week, but it's going to be the lock of the SEC season when it comes to that 12-game window. So let's get started. Some of these names maybe will surprise you. Others not so much, especially how they left off their 2024 season and carried the momentum over into 2025. If you've listened to me over at 99.1 The Sports Animal, you know how much my co-host Will West loved beating me up on this particular player, but then he emerged last year at his particular school, and I think he gets the opportunity to shine again in 2025. Our first win total, believe it or not, to debut this week on Action. Who was the first person in this market to introduce you to Diego Pavia? Call me a degenerate, call me a loser, where all I did was used to watch Conference USA football. But CUSA Football introduced us to a three-time New Mexico State champion wrestler that Jerry Kill at New Mexico State found. Watching him go 4 quarters of juggernaut Stonewall football, it entertained me. And then in one summer, we saw the transfer not only of a coach but of a quarterback make their way to Nashville, Tennessee. Not only did they save Clark Lee's job, but they saved an opportunity to continue to poke fun at a Vanderbilt program that eclipsed their win total last year and actually went to a bowl game. This year, you're still setting this mark under 5 wins. You don't think Vanderbilt's going back to a bowl game this year with Diego Pavia? He's not going to sneak up on you like he did last year, but this guy can show you he is a warrior and a true gamer. Maybe this is just me wanting to continue to cram it down your throat, the respect that this guy needs. If Dylan Sampson doesn't break Tennessee's single-season rushing touchdown record last year, this man, Diego Pavia, and this program, he's your SEC Player of the Year. This, to me, is one of my favorite wagers of 2025. They get 5 wins, we cash. Have you seen Vanderbilt's non-conference schedule? Do your own research, because we're asking them to pick up 1, maybe 2 wins in the SEC to be able to eclipse that number. I can't believe we actually live in a time where we're rooting for Vanderbilt to get us 5 wins. It's one of the easiest bets when it comes to win totals, that in 2025. If you plugged your nose with that last play, then you probably need to continue to apply said clothespin over your nose on this next play. We're not here to play favorites. We think with our head, not with our heart. The next thing I'm about to show you absolutely makes me want to vomit. It makes me want to soil myself because I can't stand this university, but I know where the money's at. And I'm going to sit there and gladly find somewhere to spend it, even though Florida this year is going to be probably in that 8-4 range. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you a big believer of what they've done when it comes to the quarterback position? Now, Billy Napier, many believe that he was at the end of his leash just last year. And still, there are Vegas sportsbooks out there that are not quite sold on this Florida team just yet. No matter how hot they ended the regular season last year, no matter how things played out in their finale, I remember watching the Gasparilla Bowl thinking to myself, are we about to see ourselves have a problem with the University of Florida this year? Hell, the Vols go down to the Swamp, and we know how difficult they have of a time to be able to knock off Florida. Casey Clausen was still the quarterback last time Tennessee picked up a win down in Gainesville. So if that's going to be one of their wins on top of a 4-0 start in the non-conference play, Florida State's still going to be bad this year. I think Florida, after going through one of the most difficult schedules put on paper last year, it eases up quite a bit this year. Flip the home venues to the road venues from last year's SEC schedule. Right here. Here it is. Everything you need to know. The best play of 2025. If you don't like Vanderbilt, you got to love Florida this year. They're easily 8-4, maybe even a 9-3 team. I think this number is way too low over at FanDuel. Florida Gators picking up a W. Billy Napier continuing to grow a little bit. Probably built himself a little bit of breathing room, especially after the basketball national championship. I doubt Scott Strickland wants to go over there and start shaking up his athletic department too much. These next two plays, one seems like it's a perennial lock, but you've got to really ask yourself, where's the growth going to be at quarterback? And the one following that, that's going to be a little bit of a question mark. We'll just say that. And for you wondering, well, that's great. We've got Vanderbilt in Florida. What about your lock of the week? I'm telling you, this is the one that you're going to want to stick around, whether you like it or not. This is where the true money is going to be made. Subscribe, like, comment. I can already see the Florida fans probably already piling on in the comment section. 6.5, what do you mean? Again, if they're going to give us the platform, we might as well stand and take money from them. All right, your third play, maybe I'm just too pot committed to this team. I was last year, quite blown away that they didn't actually make a little bit more extra noise in the college football playoff. But then when Quinn Ewers came out and showed, well, I've been playing injured for the better part of 3 months, you could probably see why Steve Sarkisian's program underperformed at times. Both Texas and Georgia have the highest win total based on FanDuel's SEC win total projections in 2025. For a Longhorns program, we should be talking about Arch Manning, right? Oh, he must love Arch Manning. The projections are through the roof for Arch Manning. Have you seen the defense that they're bringing back in 2025? A lot of people always talk about what Alabama's defense can do, what Georgia's did. Hell, what Tim Banks and Tennessee's defense, what they did last year. If you're a Vols fan, a Georgia fan, you'd probably hit refresh after every Saturday to see who was climbing in the rankings for best rush defense, points allowed in the red zone. A lot of categories dominated by Steve Sarkisian's defense last year. I know a lot of people continue to talk about the unlimited NIL money that they have. I'm more concerned about what they're going to have wide receiver and running back, but I'm quite certain, and I believe it's going to be quite an advantage, not only from an offensive line standpoint for Texas, but a defensive line standpoint from Texas as well. If Arch Manning is half of the expectations that we believe he's going to be, the defense can make up the rest. I know a lot of people are looking at Texas and kicking things off against Ohio State this year. I think not only is that going to be the best game of the year right out of the gate, but that's just going to pile on from there. I like Texas in that early matchup. I like Texas through their SEC slate this year as well. I know we're going to be a little bit in the 10-2, 11-1 window, so it gives us a little bit of breathing room if, in fact, they do slip up at the beginning of the year. I like this number at 9.5. I think this is a perfect setup for us to have a 3-for-3 start or a 3-for-3 finish, better said, in the SEC slate. This is the one we're going to need every single game that we believe will play out the way in favor of this program. But this might be me being a little bit more overconfident at the quarterback position. What are your thoughts on Lenora Sellers? Because I know what my thoughts are on Shane Beamer. I'm going to ask the quarterback to play a little bit more hero ball than I would anybody else, beg your pardon, there in the Southeastern Conference. South Carolina, we already know that they have their non-conference matchup against Clemson. South Carolina has tough matchups this year. Texas A&M LSU. My question, though, is does Carolina win the games that they're supposed to? They open up against Virginia Tech. You think that's a win, right? How well do they fare against the teams they should beat? Teams like Kentucky, other teams that are on the schedule as well that they would normally run to in the old SEC West. What we're asking South Carolina to do this year is go 3-1 in non-con play. I'm assuming they're going to lose to Clemson at the end of the year, okay? So they got to make sure that they get into conference play, easy for me to say, at least 3-0 before they get to the finale. If they beat the teams that they're supposed to on their calendar, Oklahoma is the interesting toss-up game. A&M and LSU. I'm looking at some of those left of the Mississippi River, if you will. You get what I'm saying? So when they take on A&M, need them to play their best ball. LSU, need them to play their best ball, even though they're going to Death Valley and that matchup against Oklahoma. If you're telling me why I'm so concerned about this 7.5, but my projections are leading the over, I think South Carolina is better than Oklahoma this year, and I think South Carolina is clearly better than Virginia Tech this year. If you give me both Virginia Tech as well as the Oklahoma game, I think that you could swallow a loss to Clemson at the end of the season and still reach the 8-4 that a lot of people expect Lenore Sellers as well as Shane Beamer to have this year. It's a key matchup. You know how we were just talking about Texas and how we can maneuver around with an Ohio State loss? Even if they catch a loss at the end of the year to Clemson, we've done enough work at the beginning of the year with what they have coming back in the secondary, also the skill set that they have at the wide receiver position. There's room and moves to be made, but for South Carolina to reach this number, they got to do heavy lifting early in the schedule. We'll know by October if South Carolina is going to hit this number. I think September is a massive month for Shane Beamer and his program. It's the one I'm most questionable of, but I like this as our fourth of 4 overs. Again, Vandy, Texas, Florida. Carolina, I would say I'm about 55-45 on. That number's too good to pass up, though, especially if you like them in those previous matchups, as I already mentioned, west of the Mississippi, and to start the season against Virginia Tech. Okay, Tyler Ivens. I'm sure there's already some disagreeing that's already happening, but if you've been waiting to find out what the lock is before you start the disagreement, well, let's officially let it begin, shall we? Now, before we actually pop this thing open, how about we introduce you to the two gentlemen who make action happen each and every week here on the Sports Source Digital Network.
Advent Electric has been providing high-quality electrical contractor solutions for 46 years. From 24/7 emergency electrical services to providing skilled residential and commercial electrical contractors and everything in between. Our expert certified electricians are equipped to help you no matter the size or complexity. Advent Electric, 865-588-0631.
Thank you to the team over at Advent Electric. All right, lock of the week. I know a lot of you guys are anxious to find out what's the top play when it comes to win totals in 2025 across the SEC. Love it or hate it, we're here to make money, right? We're not here for feelings, we're here to grow the checking account. And this is the play you need to be looking at, especially when it comes to relying on big money in 2025. Let's take it to the big board. All right, so let's go back to the big board, shall we? Because you got a lot of teams and you got a lot of numbers, so let's make this easy. We call this a cheat sheet, if you will. Diego Pavia is back to a bowl game as Vanderbilt this year. Trust me on this one, I love this. This is over 4.5 wins. Vandy's going 4-0 non-con. You just got to pick up 1-2 more in conference play. Same with the Gators this year. Quarterback play. Big step up in the right direction for both the Gators and the Commodores. This is not an Arch Manning play. This is Texas's defense keeping teams off the scoreboard. I think they're in a 10-2, 11-1 range. We're going to need every single one of those 8 wins. This is a stretch. I think South Carolina gets there with a strong non-conference. Over. So much positivity. Till we get to the lock of the week. Be upset, I understand, but it's the right play, especially with the question marks they have on the offensive line. This is a 9-3 Tennessee football program this year. Until you win at Florida, until you can go back to Alabama and pick up a nice W away from Neyland Stadium, and if you can show me you can beat Georgia to open up the SEC, okay, then I'm a believer in you. There's also concerns about Syracuse out of the gate without Miles Kitselman and some of the injuries that have already occurred in the secondary. I know some people are going to sit there and scoff after a 10-2 season, but we're not thinking with this. We're thinking with this. Don't let your heart get in the way of making money up here. 9-3, strong year, build towards 2026, but this is the right place, especially with the question marks Tennessee has on the offensive line, and we've already introduced you to some of those stats. Whole lot of overs, a lot of unders, comments on the Tennessee 9-3 finish that I have. I'm sure you're not going to be a fan of it, but this is where the money is going to be made in 2025. Like, comment, subscribe right here. Action, another week, we're done here on the Sports Source Digital Network.